Alrighty, I think we might kick off now. So welcome, or should I say konnichiwa. Welcome to the Best of Japan by Land and Sea, a webinar by Wild Earth Travel. For those who don't know me, my name is Nissa and I work in the marketing for Wild Earth Travel. So I am the face behind the emails and the webinars. Not a bad gig if you like to travel, as I do. For those who don't know us, we're Wild Earth Travel. So we are a small ship cruise specialist with over 30 years experience. We're a family-run business headed up by Aaron Russ, who is actually in Antarctica expeditioning at the moment. We have access to over 2,000 trips from Antarctica all the way to the Arctic and pretty much anywhere in between. We have a depth of knowledge when it comes to travel, especially our reservation team. So because we do have access to so many trips, we always encourage you to tap into our knowledge, reach out to us, because we believe that there is a trip there that to suit everyone. So I will kick off straight away into this webinar because we only have around 30 minutes and there's so much to jam pack in. So why Japan? Some of our previous travelers have described it as a mystical, exotic, amazing location. And within that, we've noticed that there are people traveling for three kind of distinct reasons, but those reasons might be a combination of all three of why they want to travel to Japan. So the first is the unique culture. So we've had past travelers partaking in tea ceremonies and watching geisha ceremony. And there's also the modern culture fix that people are going for, those futuristic, buzzing, bustling cities, and the culinary culture, which I don't think needs too much explaining. And intertwined with the culture is the history as well. So again, fascinating, preserved, revered. The Japanese do it like no one else in terms of that kind of preservation as well. So then travelers going to Japan will visit ornately decorated shrines, temples, and beautiful monuments dating back centuries ago. And also another reason why travelers love Japan is natural Japan. So, you know, obviously the birthplace of bonsai and curated gardens, which you see plenty of, but there's also the national parks, the World Heritage Sites, and beyond that, the untouched fauna, which we will go into a little more into in our presentation here. So keeping those things in mind, what we've done at Wild Earth Travel is put together three new exciting trips that kind of cover off on those three topics in depth. And we encourage you to watch this webinar, even if it's perhaps not exactly the trip for you, because you'll get a good idea and you'll learn a little bit about the destination as well. So as I mentioned before, we have two experts presenting as well today. We're tapping into their knowledge to learn a little bit more about the destination. The first one is Lisa Pagliato from Crooked Compass. Switch your mic on, Lisa, and your camera. There you go. Hello. Do you want to give us a little bit of a background to you and where you're coming from?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Nissa. Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I can see a few familiar names on the screen. I'm Lisa. I'm the founder of Crooked Compass. So we're very excited to partner with Heritage Expeditions and work exclusively with Wild Earth, promoting a land extension to some of their incredible ocean-based expeditions. So for us, you know, in true Crooked Compass style, everything that we do is all about taking people to the lesser known, doing things a little bit differently, really showcasing places that are perhaps not easy to do independently, and just delivering a different level to the way that people travel, really getting under the skin of a destination and yeah, doing things a little bit deeper and a little bit differently.
Yeah, fantastic, Lisa. I'm really looking forward to actually hearing about those land itineraries that you've devised. The other expert we have today is Isaac Wilson from Heritage Expeditions. He's actually sitting right beside me, so I can just handball over to you for a quick intro.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nisa. And likewise, Heritage Expeditions, we're super excited to be working with Lisa and Crooked Compass on some of these amazing expeditions and programs. We've been around since 1984. We are New Zealand pioneers in expedition cruising, and our MO is taking people to remote and wild places that they normally wouldn't be able to get to. We have recently just launched our new vessel, Heritage Adventurer. If you want to change the slide. Sorry, no, it's still good. So she is a true pioneering expedition vessel of exceptional pedigree. She has the highest passenger ice class. Some of you may know her as the former Hanseatic. She was purpose-built for adventure in 1991 and is known as the Grand Dame of polar exploration cruising. Her decor is sophisticated comfort and refined surrounds. On board, we have a gym, pool, jacuzzi, sauna, steam rooms, generous sized state rooms and triple, twin and single, 22 meters squared, all with private en-suites. And then our heritage suites are 44 meters squared. We're all about all-inclusive travel. So it's your onboard accommodation, your excursions, dining, when you're dining and lunch and dinner, wine, beer and soft drinks are included. We have a suite of amazing guides and lecturers, and their lectures and that are all included as well. And there's also the pre and post cruise transfers. The vessel will only take 140 people, and we have 14 Zodiacs, so every guest can join every excursion if they need to get off the boat by Zodiac. I'm not sure that's going to be too much of a problem on these Japan voyages because there's a lot of ports involved. Yeah, and we have between 12 and 14 lecturers and guides on each voyage.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be on the Adventurer early this month, and I can vouch for everything that Isaac has just said. I actually took 2 kids and a husband, and we found that there was still ample space and lots of storage, and a real highlight was the meal times, which was like a 5-star event every kind of meal. So yeah, it is a beautiful vessel. So as I mentioned, the vessel will be used for the 3 itineraries. The first itinerary we are going to kick into is Timeless Japan. So it's really focused on the ancient culture and the untouched wilderness, so going beyond the national parks of Japan. It's 21 days, 5 days concentrated purely on the land, and then 16 days with the cruise. I will kick over to you, Lisa, just to take us through a little bit more detail of the land itinerary.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Nissa. So this is actually my favourite of the 3 itineraries in terms of you know, the Crooked Compass component, the land element. What we've basically focused on with all 3 itineraries, but in particular with this one, is really focusing on the old world Japan. I know that Nissa's mentioned, you know, throughout the theme of Japan, a lot of people choose to travel here because of history and culture and nature, and nothing is more true than this itinerary to showcase all of that. So we're really focusing on an area of Japan known as Tohoku, which a lot of people haven't heard of. And interestingly enough, only 3% of people that visit Japan have actually been to this region. So that just sort of tells you how remote this is, how untouched, how natural, and how traditionally raw this part of Japan is. And that really is the big draw card. There's not a lot of tourism infrastructure here. It's still very much in its you know, traditional ways of living and practices and that sort of thing too. And that's very evident on this program. So yeah, I mean, just sort of walking through, I'm not going to go day by day through each of the itineraries, but just to show you a couple of the highlights. As you can see on the screen here, the landscapes are just breathtaking. This Tohoku region of Japan really focuses more on the shogun and samurai heritage of Japan. For anyone who doesn't know what a shogun is, it's basically a hereditary military leader that's chosen by the emperor. So a lot of the architecture through the villages and the towns that we visit in this itinerary is very, very old worldly. Think, you know, wooden samurai style houses. There's incredible samurai history, artifacts. It's an area that's very, Japan is very proud of this samurai district, and there's nothing else like it in the rest of Japan. Also, whilst dates don't quite work, it is one of the best places for cherry blossoms in Japan as well. But yeah, this region is very, very traditional. So we spend time going through some of the pine-covered islands that are in the bay just off the coast. There's also one of the largest Zen temples in Tokyo as well. So Zen and Buddhism is something that you'll find throughout Japan, but in a much more traditional, raw, untouched, sometimes unpreserved, which has its own magic about it in this part of Japan. And because this area is so historical with, you know, sort of the hierarchy, the samurais and the shoguns in this area, it's quite different to the rest of Japan. There's a lot of things like mausoleums and tombs, which is not common for the rest of Japan. So it's got this unique edge to it, which is quite fascinating. In terms of the nature side, it's just completely pristine. We spend some time visiting a place called Tazawaku, which is Japan's deepest and clearest lake, and it's just absolutely stunning. You can see pretty much straight to the bottom. You can see the fish. We actually do a boat trip on this lake, and the nature is just, you know, Japan is pretty impressive for nature all around, but here it's just completely, it's exceptional. We visit Torii gates and a lot of shrines and things that, you know, Japan is known for, but it is really about the nature and that unique history in this part of Japan. When we sort of come out of the more natural part, we finish our little 5-day land extension in a place called Kakinadate. And this is a beautiful fortified little town. It's known as the little Kyoto of Tohoku, sorry. And this place is just, you know, Kyoto is that place where people see photos and they go, I want to go here. This is a much smaller, much more authentic, much more untouched and traditional version of that. Many, many samurai residences here, and it's just a very, very quaint, very, very historical town to finish in, which just, you know, completely contrasts the beautiful nature that we've been exploring in the past couple of days. And then from Kakinadate, we take a bullet train down to Tokyo. And for anyone that, you know, has a bullet train in Japan on their bucket list, up to 320 kilometers an hour, very, very exciting. And yeah, absolutely something that you need to do in Japan. So that's a very quick little summary before you then jump on the Heritage Adventurer.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. Talking of the Heritage Adventurer, the next part, oh, sorry, my slides have gone AWOL, we'll just, is the part from Tokyo to Otaru, if you want to take it off.
Yeah, absolutely, Lisa. Thank you for that. That sounds awesome. So with our next part, we've got a 16-day expedition cruise, and it's a exploration of Japan's wilderness and semi-circumnavigation of Japan's last frontier, Hokkaido. Japan's northernmost and least developed island. It's an area famous for its volcanoes and hot springs, wilderness and wildlife, traditional cultures, and of course the swathes of colourful flowers abound there. So picking up from Tokyo, you will join us for a night in a hotel. There will also be a dinner to get to know some of the team and your fellow people. We're hoping by that stage you will have had your lost in translation fantasy moment whilst enjoying the highlights of Tokyo. In the morning, it's back on the Shinkansen or the bullet train off to Kanazawa, where we will board Heritage Adventurer and more overnight. The next day, we awake in Kanazawa and we go and explore the historic mountain settlement and UNESCO World Heritage Site of Shirakawa-go and its iconic glasshouse Zukuri farmhouses, but they have these quite iconic pitched roofs to stop the snow from destroying them. Or there's the option to explore Kanazawa's famous Kutani-style pottery, lacquerware, gold leaf workmanship, and classical no dance drama, and visit Kinroken Gardens, one of Japan's top 3 great gardens. Then that takes us back on the ship. We make our way to Matsui, the town of water. Matsui is nestled between 2 large lakes. While we're there, obviously, we'll check out the national treasure that is Matsui Castle and discover the art of traditional paper making, visit some museums and some parks. From there, we make our way to Hagi, famous for its pottery again, and temples and shrines. Teramachi district and its ninja temple will be high on our list here. Jokomachi district's ancient samurai houses and Hagi Castle ruins, and then of course the beautiful Zen Tokoji temple. We'll then leave Japan and go to South Korea, where we will have a South Korean sampler day, cramming in the best that South Korea has to offer. with a World Heritage Site visit to Jiangoji. It's a museum without walls, and an iconic Buddhist culture centre where you can wander among excavated monuments and tombs and temples, and also enjoy Korean delicacies and cultural performances. Probably not while we're wandering amongst the mausoleums and tombs. Then it's back to Japan, to Dogojima Island, the largest of Japan's Oki Islands. It's a registered global geopark where we will explore the epic scenery of this remote paradise and ancient sacred sites. It's a very rarely visited place, so it's quite a treat to go here. Then there's a sea day, so there's time to unwind and take in the amazing coast before we make our way to Niigata, famous for snow, rice, and sake. We're going to explore the stunning volcanic scenery here, the hot springs and the lush forests filled with wildlife. So we might see an Asiatic black bear and several migratory species of birds. There's also the 3-story Takata Castle and 193 hectares of Fukushimagata wetlands. And this is home to the rarely seen gigantic lotus, Euryalifero. So if that's on a botanist's list out there, that will be a must do. We then go to Nishiro. It's the gateway to the iconic Juniko 12 Lakes National Parks, and it's a national treasure over there. A lot of the places we are visiting are considered national treasures, which is quite cool. There we'll look at the 2,000-year-old double caldera Lake Tawada and experience the incredible Japanese soundscape of Wind of Matsubara, which is created when the wind blows through 7 million trees that were planted to prevent coastal erosion. Then it's on to Mururan and the hot spring and volcanic wonderland of Shikotsuku Toya National Park and the iconic Hell Valley. So expect some geothermal action there. And then to Kishiro, home to the Japan icon, the red-crowned crane at Kishiro Shikutsushuen. Sorry. There, we hope to see some of the cranes. We'll also visit the rehabilitation centre while we're there. And then we'll visit Japan's largest marshland with an afternoon of culture at the architectural wonder of the Kushiro City Museum, which is just as fascinating as it is on the outside and the inside. And then it's 2 days in Abashiri. Highlights here include Lake Kasahara. It's a stunning tree-lined caldera lake, and witness the spectacle of 10 hectares of vivid pink flowering fields at the world-famous Shizabakura Festival, which is that picture you can see there where Mount Fuji is in the background, and there's a swathe of colourful flowers. Then it's on to Reben and Rishiri Islands. These are some of the more remote islands. Reben is considered the island of flowers and is a treasure trove of natural beauty with its rare alpine flowers and views of the dormant volcano, while Rishiri is a wildlife-filled park where you can explore, after a visit exploring the park, explore the town or take a soak in some of the hot springs, which then takes us through to Otiro, the charming canal-flanked port city, where we will disembark, and there will either be an option to go to a central hotel or to the airport.
Fantastic. Sounds amazing. The next itinerary that we have for you, the Spirit of Japan. So an in-depth journey through the ages. So really, if you're a culture buff and you want to experience the culture of Japan, this is the trip for you. Again, 21 days, start at the start of June. And the difference with this itinerary is that the cruise component is actually at the start.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Sorry.
No worries. And 15 days for our segment. And this is a seamless blend of ancient customs and ultra-modern living that only Japan can do. And we'll also throw in some fascinating wilderness and wildlife. So this voyage starts where the other one finished in Otaru. So we'll spend the night there in the hotel. Obviously, Hokkaido is known for its glassworks, music boxes, sake distilleries, and the Otara Canal that I mentioned earlier, flanked with shops and cafes built within its repurposed 1920s warehouses. So we will spend the day exploring Otari before boarding Adventurer, and then we will make our way to Hakodate, the southern tip of Hokkaido, where we'll explore Onamu Park. It's a scattering of islands and lakes, all connected by tiny little bridges, which is very Instagram worthy, and all wrapped with the majestic backdrop of a dormant volcano. And there's also a city tour, which includes the massive 5-star shaped citadel Fort Goriaku, which once a citadel is now a quirky park, public park. Then it's off to Nishiro, gateway to the iconic Juniko Lakes, mentioned that before. That is a double Kadira lake there as well, and the winds of Matsubura again amongst the 7 million trees. Then we go to somewhere that's quite remarkable altogether, Sado Island. It is widely considered the perfect miniature version of Japan. It's also a former destination of political exile. And thanks to some of those famous people that were sent there, it has its own unique culture, which is something that we will get involved in. So think stunning natural scenery, rare wildlife. The Japanese crested ibis is here. It's extinct on the mainland, but it's still there on Sado. And there's samurai warrior culture and the intriguing tub boats, which I think might be on the second slide, but that's maybe not. Another one. Then we're off to Kanazawa. Again, this is with the previous voyage. So the famous Kutani style pottery, the lacquerware. They're really into their
the lacquerware, the beautiful ornate bowls and
it's just that precision art that Japan does so well. So I got off track there. And again, there's also that visit to the 3 great gardens of Japan again. Again, and then on to Matsui, which is the water town nestled between the 2 lakes. Matsui Castle, the traditional paper making and museums and parks. And Hagi, again, famous for the pottery, temples and shrines. We're going to hit that ninja temple, samurai houses, Hagi Castle ruins, and the beautiful Zen Tokoji temple. Takes us back to South Korea. So from, we will do a similar itinerary to what we did. So the perfect South Korean sampler in one day, and Ulsan. Then off to Karatsu, where medieval heritage reigns supreme. We will visit the Karatsu or Flying Crane Castle, so named because it resembles a crane in flight. Or there's the option to visit the city of Amari, celebrated for its Karatsu-ware pottery and flower-laden gardens. We are then off to Ube, to the Hofu Tenminguru Shrine, built in 1903 and was dedicated to the god of learning. There's also the option to visit the iconic 5-story pagoda and national treasure Rurikoji Temple, set in the beautifully manicured Kozen Park. So some good options there in Ube. Then we'll make our way to Iwajima on Shikoku Island. Iwajima is one of Japan's pearl producers, premier pearl producers. So we're going to visit a pearl farm. If you've got an interest in that, then that will be quite an insight, I should imagine. And then visit the Edo period Iwajima Castle and Tanshin Garden built in the samurai era, and with a few more things involved there. We're then on to Hiroshima and Miyajima Island. Obviously, Hiroshima Peace Park is an iconic
World War II.
Yeah, the site of the first atomic bomb. The skeleton of the dome still remains there, the eternal flame. So it's quite a sobering but important place in Japan. And just so things don't get too dark, we'll go to Miyajima Island as well, one of Japan's most scenic spots. Has the famous Torii Gate and temple there. And then on to Takamatsu, where there's the option to go to Ritsuren Park, one of Japan's finest gardens, and Kanashi, one of Japan's main bonsai production centers. So if you've got that interest in the bonsai, that you mentioned earlier, you'll get to learn everything about it.
Yeah, oh, fantastic.
Hopefully pick up some tips to do your own bonsaiing when you get home.
Yeah.
And then there is, the other option is the full day in the art gallery at Naoshima Island, which is the iconic island that has all the outdoor artwork, which is quite an incredible thing. And then make our way to Kobe, where we'll disembark, and then again there is a choice to either go to a hotel or the airport.
Yes.
Oh no, there's not. Sorry, we disembark and then we
continue to Lisa. And just before I hand it over there, I've noticed a couple of things come through the chat, and unfortunately I'm not able to go through it while I'm sharing my screen, but we have dedicated some question time. So once we hit question time, I'll go through the chat. So if you do have any questions along the way, pop them in the chat and we'll get to them there. But in the meantime, I'll hand you back to Lisa to conclude the Spirit of Japan itinerary.
Perfect. Thanks, Nissa. So yeah, this time we're at the end of the expedition cruise and basically cutting straight across the country. So starting off in Osaka, well, from Kobe, obviously, and then transferring down to Osaka. For us, this land portion, it's very much more on your traditional side of Japan. With a visit to Osaka, we do focus more on the feudal past of the region, visiting Osaka Castle. There's also plenty of time to explore markets, fresh produce, seafood, purchase any kind of souvenirs as well as shopping in some of the big arcades that Japan is really known for. We then continue on to what is known as the Sea of Japan. You can see in that top little picture at the top there, and to a little place called Amano Hashidate. It is the most charming, beautiful, little quaint fishing village, very traditional, and it sits, as you can see there, right on the coast, but backed by these incredible mountains, very lush, complete contrast, very, very fantastic little area to explore that, again, not many people actually venture up to this part of the coast. Those little things that you can see in the water there, those little squares and circles, they're actually big sort of like tuna catches. So you can see that it's quite an active fishing village right off the shore there, which makes it quite fascinating in itself, and lots of hustle bustle, lots of fishing boats coming in. It's a very active little town, which is quite special. We also visit a sake brewery here. So obviously sake coming from Japan, one of the best places to taste it is on the coast. One of the ingredients is often coming from the ocean as well when making sake. And we take a cruise on the bay as well, just to get up and close to some of the more remote fishing villages around this Sea of Japan part of the coastline. From here, we head down to Kyoto. Now, Kyoto is one of those must-see places when you go to Japan. No matter what part of Japan you're doing, Kyoto quite often is the big draw card for people wanting to go. They want to see that geisha history. They want to see Gion, which is the old part of Kyoto with its wooden streets, and quite often at sunset you see the geishas shuffling through the streets, and it's something that's quite special. So with our portion or our experiences in Kyoto, we do of course cover the must-sees and must-dos because this is what people want when they're in Kyoto. But further to that, we do of course cover the temples and gardens, but we do a private tea ceremony. You can do tea ceremonies in many of the public gardens, and it's quite touristy, and it's not quite the same. For us, we're looking for that level of exclusivity, that wow factor, and that real connection with the local people. So in our tea ceremony, you're meeting with the tea master, you're understanding the process, you're understanding the whisking that they do with the green tea, what the air means, what it does to the tea and the chemical makeup of it, how it changes the flavour. It's a real in-depth immersive experience as opposed to just sitting in a beautiful setting and tasting tea. There's a real story behind it that just makes that experience that little bit more special. We, of course, also visit the Golden Pavilion and its beautiful, beautiful gardens in Kyoto. That's an absolute must-see. And then from there, we continue down to Yokohama. So that image down the bottom, that's Yokohama. That's the Rainbow Bridge connecting Tokyo and Yokohama. Yokohama is it's very impressive by night. It is beautiful. We do a walking tour in the evening through the old part of Yokohama. We spend time taking you to various parks and viewpoints to be able to take in that incredible view. And one thing that we do that's quite special, and that's actually exclusive to Crooked Compass, is we've got a masterclass, which is a participation in the art of Zen and Bento. This is something that was introduced to temples back in the Kamakura period, and it's all about the cleansing and karma neutral meals for monks that were in the process of seeking enlightenment. So we have an expert who joins our group to deliver this experience. It's a combination of food experiences as well as focusing on philosophy, Zen, and lifestyle. It's something that is very unique, and yeah, it's something that's exclusive to us. So we're very proud to be able to offer it in our partnership with Heritage, and something that would probably be one of the highlights of the land portion of this tour. It's something quite special. The hotel that we stay in has incredible views over Tokyo Bay and Yokohama as well. So you can certainly get those bird's eye views and those nighttime shots from the hotel as well. We spend time exploring the old entertainment district as well in Yokohama, and this region, it's kind of like Shinjuku. Some of you may have been or heard of Shinjuku in Tokyo, which is, you know, very buzzy. It's very alive. There's lots of electric lights everywhere. This is like a more intimate, quaint, and local feel of that. And random trivia fact for the day, it's also the birthplace of jazz in Japan. And then, yeah, so that's where we end. We start off with the beautiful, quaint fishing villages and then work our way back through and end back in the big smoke.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds great. I can imagine pouring your morning cuppa might never be the same again after partaking in a tea ceremony of that expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I should mention is you do also have the option, if you're an early starter, and when I say early, you know, 4:30 in the morning, to get up and go to the Yokohama fish markets. For some people, experiencing a fish market in Japan is a big deal. It's something that's incredibly impressive to watch. Just, you know, the volume of fish coming in, the amount of people, the precision of how all these processes just work to perfection. But it's also, if you have the opportunity to witness a tuna auction, that's something that's quite amazing too. But the best thing is getting to have the freshest sashimi that you will ever have anywhere in Japan, because it's come straight out of the ocean and it's sliced up right in front of you, and you can do that at the fish markets there in Yokohama too.
Oh, worth the 4 a.m. start, it sounds like.
I think it is.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Lisa. We'll take you to our final itinerary now, and Enchanting Islands. So it's not just the Enchanting Islands of Japan where you have that quintessential Japanese experience, but the cruise component takes you through tropical islands of Taiwan and Philippines as well. So 20 days in June this year, and we kick off in Japan with Crooked Compass.
Yeah, so this itinerary is almost the reverse of the one that I've just spoken about. The only difference is, instead of Yokohama, we go to Kanazawa. We take a bullet train from Tokyo to Kanazawa, which sits right between the Alps and the Sea of Japan. So again, incredible landscapes, beautiful nature. We visit the samurai district in this area as well. And, you know, there's so much incredible woodwork and handicrafts and ornate traditional skills that are still practiced in this area as well, that have been carried through from, you know, the lifestyles of the warrior lords from this region. So very historical, very impressive from a landscape point of view, and also very cool old lanterns, you know, making this sort of old worldly feel come to life as you're exploring this area. We also do a traditional, we watch a traditional geisha experience here as well, where not only do you get to witness the geishas performing, and they're in their traditional clothing with their rice painted faces, but you also have the opportunity to interact with the geishas. Quite often, if you do, I guess, a more standard or group type geisha experience, you don't have the opportunity to be able to talk to them. A lot of people are quite fascinated with geishas in themselves, their culture, how they've chosen to become a geisha. Did they choose, or were they, you know, sort of forced into this type of role? These are the questions that you can actually ask one-on-one with our geishas at the end of their performance while we're enjoying a meal. They actually join us. So that's quite special in itself and very different to a regular sort of geisha performance. And from Kanazawa, we then head to Kyoto, and this is where we then feed back into the same itinerary that we've offered on the previous cruise extension, where we're covering the must-sees and the must-dos of the temples and the gardens, the tea ceremony that I mentioned before, the Golden Pavilion, exploring Gaon, the old district, and then coming back through to that charming fishing village. taking in the sake brewery and jumping out onto the bay and exploring that beautiful fishing village from the ocean as well, before finishing up in Osaka and again focusing on that feudal past, Osaka's castle, and ensuring that there's plenty of time for either market shopping or arcade shopping for those people who want the craze of Japanese shopping experience as well.
Oh, great. So then, Isaac, tell us about all these other enchanting islands that you have up your sleeve on the heritage component.
Yeah, so there we sort of go a bit off the beaten path, which is kind of cool, while still enjoying some Japan at the start. Following on from Crooked Compass's departure in Osaka, so we will spend the night there, and our first place to explore will be Kobe, where we go to the Pure Water Temple. It's one of Japan's most revered temples, UNESCO World Heritage Site. Buddhist temple Rengo Inn, where you'll see 1,001 statues of the goddess of Mercy Cannon, and then the ultimate torii gate, Fushimi Inari Shrine, before boarding Heritage Adventurer. Then this is where we also loop back onto some of our previous itineraries. So Takamatsu, where you've got the choice of Retsuan Park or the outdoor gallery Miyashima Island, Hiroshima and Miyajima Island again. Mm-hmm. So those, and then Iwajima Island, Shikoku, so the pearl producer, yep. And the castle, samurai era stuff. From there, we go to Yakushima Island, which is the wettest place in Japan. Now, don't let that put you off. It is just 2,000 square kilometers. It's an eco-paradise, and it's home to the giant Sugi, or Japanese cedar rainforest. Some of these trees are upwards of 7,500 years old, so it's quite an incredible site there. It's also a nesting site for endangered loggerhead and green turtles, and with all that water, obviously there's some impressive waterfalls to be seen there amongst the scenery. And then we're off to Amami Oshima Island. It's a tropical outpost famous for its rare and diverse bird life, and primeval subtropical Kinzabakura virgin forest. So think coral gardens, and the centuries-old practice of creating revered Oshima Tsusami silk, which has been used for centuries in the finest kimonos, which hopefully some of Lisa's geishas will have been wearing.
Yes, so. Get a real appreciation for it.
Yes, exactly. You'll see them in action.
Yeah.
Then we're off to Hawaii, the Hawaii of Japan, which is Okinawa Island. So obviously, I think that sells it in itself.
Yeah,
But if that wasn't enough, there's ancient and World War II history there, combined with the lush subtropical rainforest and the Valley of Gangala site, which is where they believe prehistoric human remains were found, or humans dwelled some 20,000 years ago. Right. So there's quite some history on that leg. Then we're off to Ishigaki Island. It's a melting pot of pristine beaches, butterflies and bird life, sensational views from the Tamatsuguki Observatory. You'll discover island traditions as well. There's a stalactite-filled cave that we wander through to get to this incredible beach. And then there on nearby Takitomi Island, there's the opportunity to travel by traditional buffalo cart if that's what you'd like to do.
Yes.
From there, we leave Japan there, and it's Japan's remote islands, and we're off to Keeling in Taiwan. We spend the day exploring Taipei's exciting mix of Asian and Western influences. So from its incredible street food through to world-leading attractions, including the National Palace Museum, which I believe has the largest collection of Chinese art.
Okay.
It's not on my notes, but I believe that, so if I'm wrong, hopefully not. We'll explore Yulu Geopark, a world-famous surreal landscape of honeycomb and mushroom-eroded rock formations, so like a real otherworldly experience there. Then it's on to Hualien, visit the world famous 19-kilometre long canyon, Taroko National Park, and its namesake Marble Gorge. This is where marble walls soar to more than 300 feet high, and it's flanked by bamboo forests filled with wildlife and more than 140 bird species. So quite a wild and remote region there. After that, it's off to the Philippines, and we make our way to Bataan Island, where we discover World War II and Spanish history, a unique architecture, including Santo Domingo de Basco Church, and enjoy incredible 360-degree views going to a lookout point of this tiny bucolic island. Also in the Philippines, we go to Vigan. Here we can visit the Juan Luna Shrine at Badout Church, where a 400-year-old image of the Virgin Mary is displayed.
Right.
I think that was found in the 17th century by a fisherman.
So, wow.
Climb the iconic 16th century Bantay Church bell tower and wander Vegan's historic cobblestone streets and learn about its famous handcrafted earthenware Bernay jars, which are quite famous.
Okay.
But, yeah. And then it is off to 100 Islands National Park. Don't be fooled by the name. There are 124 islands. This is going to be a true expedition day. These are lushly vegetated, mushroom-shaped islands and scattered across pristine turquoise waters of the Lingayen Gulf. And they're believed to be formed more than 2 million years ago. So that's quite an expedition day. We'll be exploring and looking to land at one of these islands and have a look around, see what we can find. And the voyage will then go to Manila, where we will disembark in the Philippines.
Right.
Just in time for your next adventure to start.
That's it. I do have one quick question. That intriguing image at the top left-hand corner, is that a giant pumpkin or what's that?
That is the Naoshima Art Gallery Island.
Oh, right.
Now, unfortunately, there was a typhoon that some people may know this, that swept that iconic pumpkin out to sea.
So it's no longer? Or they put it back?
It does have a twin, which is a red polka dot one as well, similar. But they have reclaimed it, and it's going to be reinstated. So,
well, then you might be able to get to see it on the trip.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. That was comprehensive, enticing. I am wary of the time that we have gone over a little bit. So what I might actually have to do, unfortunately, is ask you just to pop the questions into the chat, which I'll be able to get to when we stop sharing. I'll collate them and I'll put them into our follow-up EDM, which I'll send through tomorrow with the recording. Just so we can keep going along, because I know that you've all got busy schedules. So something that I know you've probably been hanging out for is our exclusive that we promised. So for webinar watchers only, until the 1st of March, we are offering a $1,700 flight credit for any of these 3 itineraries, AUD dollars, and also a 15% discount. So think about it. Contact us if you've got any questions. If you do book, then you'll have to let us know where you've heard the promotion from the webinar, so we know to put that discount and the flight credit onto your booking. And then to book, contact your travel agent or contact us. You've got all our details there. Ask us any questions that you like. And a big thank you for attending. We really appreciate your attendance today, and thank you to Lisa and thank you to Isaac for your wonderful insights. Again, there will be a follow-up with the comprehensive itineraries, because they are so comprehensive. We couldn't go through them all in finite detail today, but you will get access to that detail, and also the pricing as well, which we didn't really get into because there are so many different combinations depending on what your combination on the ship will be, and we will be able to give you more information on that. Stay tuned as well. So in 2 weeks' time, where we will be doing another webinar on amazing Norway. So I guess it's over and out from us. I should say sayonara.